Dear participants to the 78th annual meeting of the Tobacco Associates, my name is Ivan Genov and I'm in charge of tobacco industry analysis at the International Tobacco Growers Association, the ITGA. It is a real honor and pleasure to be able to present a global market outlook for you for a third year in a row, and I want to use the occasion to extend the warmest regards from our President Jose Aranda from Argentina and our CEO Mercedes Vasquez. Uh, some of you may know that last year we had our annual general meeting in Raleigh, and as part of the comprehensive program, we did a conference in the Wilson County Agricultural Center. So I have very good memories of this place, and I hope it will be the right venue to deliver this presentation, which will feature four key topics. I'm going to briefly touch upon tobacco leaf production trends on global level and in some of the biggest and most important markets. I'm going to briefly touch upon some consumption trends. Then I will focus on a few regulation updates before I close with the latest product that has been developed by the association in order to help growers from around the world. Without further ado, global leaf production last year was lower than what we had in 2023. This was a result of some weather events that affected the crop, for one in Brazil, where there were excessive rains, in Africa, where we had prolonged periods of drought, and of course in the United States, where you had a fair share of hurricanes that impacted the crop. This year, the figures that have received from individual markets point to a significant increase in production. Growers in multiple countries have been encouraged to produce more, in part due to shortage and short supply on the global market, a situation that has been that has stayed like this for a couple of years now. During our annual meeting in Raleigh, some companies suggested that this supply-demand situation will balance out for Flucure this year and for barley maybe next year. But it is yet to be seen if this reversal back to normal will continue in the long term. In China, which was not part of the global figures on the slide before, we have to admit that information coming from China is quite limited, but from what is currently available, it seems that production there is quite stable and actually growing in the last couple of years. What is even more important for everyone outside of China is their imports. China is a very important partner and buyer to many of ITGA member associations, and ever since COVID restrictions were dropped, we can see growth in their imports, something that is easily verifiable when you travel across the sales floors across Africa, for example, and it is likely that this upward trajectory will continue in the future. The Chinese have very specific leaf requirements, but they often offer a very competitive price. So a very important partner, as I already mentioned. Brazil, which is the biggest exporter in the world, had a particularly problematic 2024 with excessive rains in the beginning of the season, affecting yields. This season, however, growth is expected to reach almost 40%, and flu cured is likely to exceed 630 million kilograms, something that hasn't been achieved for a while. What is also interesting to look at here is the pricing, which has also steadily increased, but we need to account for rapidly growing cost of productions, something that is an issue for American growers as well. A topic that was widely discussed during our meeting in Raleigh, but some markets have managed to achieve year-on-year price increases, and Brazil is one of them. Zimbabwe, another key market for flu cured, suffered from a state of disaster declared in April 2024. The crop was significantly shorter as a result. Pricing in Zimbabwe has been quite stagnant, while the cost of production is also on the rise. Um, Tobacco is a very important crop in the country, a main contributor, and a main source of foreign exchange. So it's an absolutely vital sector for the local economy. Uh, what we have seen so far is good conditions. The marketing season is due to start very shortly, and we expect to see figures that approach 300 million kgs, which is the target that the government has set for the sector. A very important market for burley tobacco, Malawi, has been growing production for the last 3 years, and this year is likely to result in another record performance. Malawian growers, as well as growers in Zimbabwe, these are two markets where small scalers are account for the majority of the production. The market has benefited from entry of new buyers, and their prices have improved due to the shortage of barley across the world. And finally, just a quick look into Europe, a market that has certain similarities in terms of costs with the United States, but this shortage of leaf in the last couple of years have led to increases of production, even in a market that suffers from significant and constant decreases. Jumping to consumption, this is the outlook for traditional products. On the left-hand side, you can see the volume outlook in the next 5 years. This information is provided by our data partner, Euromonitor International, a company that had sent a speaker to Raleigh last year. So very insightful information. The struggle for cigarette value continues, as very few categories are likely to see above inflation growth. This ability of cigarette manufacturers to balance the decline in volume sales with price increases is getting increasingly narrow, and it will be even harder in the future. Middle East and Africa are definitively the sole cigarette growth region, against very significant declines in Europe and North America. This is what the chart on the right-hand side tells us. And in the future, cigarette volume gains will become more geographically concentrated and outweighed by declines. Biggest projected growth for cigarette consumption is for Ethiopia, United Emirates, Cambodia, and Egypt, while the sharpest declines are expected in New Zealand, Australia, Denmark, and United Kingdom. In novel products, nicotine pouches are the most dynamic category as reduced risk product growth trajectories flatten or even reverse. Heated tobacco, a product that is particularly interesting for growers because of the still use of tobacco leaf in this in the consumables, um, is the key format at the moment in terms of sizing. A product that is still not widely available in the United States, but something that is forecasted to appear in the years to 2028. Um, as you can see, the top 10 global markets in stick equivalent terms, where growth is expected. Most of it comes from heated tobacco. The two biggest exceptions are United States, where pouches is the main contributor, main likely contributor to volume growth, while in Russia, this will be vapes. A few words about regulations. As the use of alternative nicotine products grows, governments are implementing stricter regulations to control their sale, marketing, and public health impact. There is a push for harmonization across countries in the European Union to control these new products. There is a wave of um, potential and actual bans of disposable vapes and restriction of flavors that are appealing to the youth. More countries are extending smoke-free regulations to public spaces, including outdoor areas, workplaces, and hospitality venues. A good example of this is Mexico, which recently adopted a very strict legislative piece. Governments are also reinforcing graphic health warnings, plain packaging, and larger warning labels to deter smoking. Canada has even mandated health warnings on individual sticks, and the number of countries that have adopted plain packaging is above 25 and is growing. And of course, something that is prevalent across the board, tax increases to fill in budget gaps. Tobacco, alcohol are often the first thing that legislators and governments are targeting. And then these are three pieces of news which I think we should monitor very closely. And I say this internationally as well. For the US audience, of course, the Trump administration withdrawal of the plan to ban menthol cigarettes has made the news, but this has the potential to affect regulatory trajectories in other markets. So we are closely monitoring the developments of this news. Last year, I was talking a lot about these so-called generational bans, which already the initiative started in New Zealand. This basically represents a ban on ever being able to legally buy cigarettes for people born after a certain year. This is part of the endgame suggestions and the endgame regulations that have the target to eliminate smoking in general. So the New Zealand has basically dropped this plan after a change of government. A few other markets that were playing with the idea have also shelved it, but the United Kingdom is the place where there is very strong bipartisan support, and um, the measure passed um, through their parliament. So it looks very likely that UK could be the first big market to implement such a drastic measure. Part of the end game brings us to COP11 and MOP4 meetings. These are the WHO FCTC Conference of the Parties meetings that happen every 2 years and have an impact on many markets and have a general impact of the trajectory of what is the next frontier in tobacco regulations. The ITGA has been very active for many years in an attempt to counter and to provide solid arguments against measures that could harm tobacco growers in particular. We have been successful on many occasions to bring down some very unrealistic proposals, but this is a battle that basically goes on every 2 years. So we are currently focused on the next edition of COP, which will happen in November in Switzerland. ITGA meetings for the year will take place in Argentina, Malawi, and notably, we will do our annual meeting in Dortmund, Germany, along the Intertabac Intersupply Trade Fair, the biggest tobacco fair in the world, with which ITGA is an exclusive partner. So all our members will be there, and all our members will be able to see this fascinating event that informs us about where companies are focusing their investments in. And we are also in the planning stage of an Asia online conference, which could include a section on the Chinese market. We will keep you informed, and hopefully, once secured, we will share the invites so you can see what is happening in this part of the world as well. And then the last section of my short presentation is about the new things ITGA is doing. We are currently in the final stage of developing our Tobacco Compass platform, which at its initial stage will feature 4 markets in Africa, where we will track a very wide variety of elements, which you can see on this slide. We'll have a country fact sheet and current updates that include the socioeconomic impact of tobacco growing, some key facts, an up-to-date tobacco season calendar, a live weather widget, which will follow temperature and precipitation forecasts, as well as latest updates from the market. In this product, our partner associations in these countries will have a section with key facts about them and objectives, which will potentially provide further opportunities for cooperation on programs. We have a statistics section, which will include production volume and production volume forecasts, something similar to what you saw in the beginning of this presentation, but also we will be tracking average pricing, planted area, number of growers, tobacco yields, growers' income, and export statistics. And finally, which is probably the biggest asset of this product, is the grower surveys. We have conducted surveys with hundreds of tobacco growers in Africa, where we ask them questions about their farms, about sustainable tobacco growing techniques, their satisfaction and intentions to grow in the future, the main challenges they face in the economic, social, and environmental spheres, the level of supply chain interaction in their markets, and what is their regulatory awareness. So putting all these things together really creates a very comprehensive view of how the market looks. This information at its initial stage covers Africa, but we have a big ambition to include other markets, including Brazil, India, and United States, and hopefully we will be able to do this very soon. With this, my presentation concludes. I hope you found it useful. If you have any additional questions, please feel free to get in touch at itga@tobaccoleaf.org. If you send us a question, we'll be happy to answer very quickly. I wish you a very productive session, and I hope you have a very productive and successful season. And until next time, thank you very much.